I love small cars and small motorcycles. Small vehicles are awesome. Way more fun than big vehicles. People will criticize small vehicles by saying it's a toy. Yeah, toys are awesome. So anyway, I bought a smart car. Small cars do come with compromises, like the fact that this car is kind of a piece of crap. Some people will point out that it's made by Mercedes, which is true in the same way that this is made by Rolls-Royce. It doesn't haul things all that well, like mountain bikes. It works, but it's not super convenient. You can buy a bike rack for it, but I already own a bike rack. It requires a 2-inch hitch receiver, which is not an option on the Smart, but I bet I can make that happen. There's a good chance that behind this bit of plastic here, there is a steel bumper beam, and I bet I can weld a 2-inch receiver onto the center of that bumper beam. Then I will have a bike rack. Step 1 is to remove all of the plastic bits in the way. To do this, you need to remove the rear fender plastic pieces. Fortunately, most of this car can be deformed with a bit of pushing and pulling. With that out of the way, we reach the bumper beam. This is not what I would call substantial. I question its crashworthiness, and I am unconvinced of its ability to hold a bicycle, but it's what we've got, so we'll go with it. I traced around the hitch in the center of the bumper to figure out where to cut it. I also took some measurements on the fascia to determine how far out the hitch should stick from the bumper so that I can still get the pin in there. A little less than 3 inches, so we'll just call it 4. The bumper bolts seem to use some sort of in-between torque size, but I got the larger size to work with a bit of influence from the chief engineer. Meanwhile, my cameraman was busy getting dramatic, sexy shots. With the bumper removed, I need to cut a square hole. I started the cut by using a hole saw. Then I moved to my jigsaw. Then I finished things up with my favorite saw. Too small, more sparks. It was still a tight fit, but I made it work with more help from the chief. Like a glove. Time to weld it, but first I need to clean off the paint in the most dramatic way possible. I'm actually getting better at welding. Not bad. Not bad at all. I did make sure the hitch was mostly perpendicular to the bumper beam, but as we will find out later, I did not make sure that it was square. Oh well. Okay, we're done. Let's install this bad boy. Hopefully this fits. Yeah, it fits. Looking good. Let's load up the mountain bike and see how it works. That's not great. You can tell that it's not very stiff because it has a low natural frequency. It doesn't move fast. Stiff things vibrate at high frequencies. You can also tell it's not very stiff by just, looking at it. So, bicycle mount. We'll call that a 3 out of 10. What about a motorcycle? I have a motorcycle hitch carrier that is extremely heavy, which in this case may not work in our favor. Even without a motorcycle, this doesn't look very stiff. It looks compliant. In engineering, we would call this bad. This is a bad design, but it could be that the suspension is contributing to the bouncy bounce. Maybe it's not as bad as it looks. We can find out by sticking a floor jack under the car and lifting it up a bit. No, yeah, that's bad. That's really bad. But maybe it still works. Maybe it could get better with a motorcycle on it, even though there is no possible way that it could get better with a motorcycle on it. I stabilized the motorcycle carrier by putting a floor jack underneath it while loading the bike. So far, so good. Let's remove the floor jack to see how far the bike sags. Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot of sag. And it's on the ground. Not great. But maybe it still works. Maybe it can still be used to transport a motorcycle. Let's find out. Okay, that didn't work so well. The problem is that the bumper beam is just a stamped piece of steel. It needs to be boxed out. An open section like this is not going to be very stiff. This is not surprising. In a crash, you don't always want something to be super strong. You want it to absorb energy. I, however, do not want this bumper to absorb energy. I want it to not move. So I ordered some steel to close out the back and front and make it a closed section. For a bumper beam, an open section, perfectly acceptable. For a receiver hitch, closed section is the way to go. When the steel arrived, I cut it to size and welded it to close out the back. I also welded some steel in the front to close out the small holes there. I also designed some braces that go up to the body. I sketched these out with some quick measurements and had my friends over at Send Cut Send laser them out for me. Then I welded them up and bolted them to the body of the car using some rivet nuts. Follow that up with a quick, crappy spray paint job. Cut out a hole in the fascia for the hitch and install the fascia, and looking good. Now we'll take a break to do a burnout on some leftover birthday cake. I feel like I had another project that I was working on, some sort of other car type thing. Nah, it's probably just this smart car thing. All right, let's try that motorcycle carrier again. Oh, that is substantially better. That is like 1,000,000 times better. This will definitely carry a mountain bike. But will it carry a motorcycle? Let's find out. Now, I know that some of you are looking at this and you're thinking, Matt, I have seen some sketchy stuff on the internet. I have seen you yourself do some really questionable things with cars and motorcycles. But this Honda Grom on the back of a smart car is the most ingenious thing you have ever done. If driving a small car is smart, then riding a small motorcycle must be even smarter, and combining them into one vehicle. Some of you are noticing that there seems to be a lot of weight on the rear axle and not much on the front. Some of you also know that the smart car is rear-wheel drive. Now, when I hit the throttle, there is a torque at the rear wheels which tries to lift up the front wheels. So you have this lifting force here, the weight of the motorcycle here, and all of the weight of the smart car drivetrain here. Looking at this free body diagram, we can see that the whole thing wants to tilt sideways like this, making it a giant letter E. The E pivots around the wheel, so I call this a wheelie. The Smart engine puts out an enormous 68 foot-pounds of torque. That torque multiplied through the transmission puts out about 1,000 foot-pounds of torque at the rear wheel in first gear. Coincidentally, the torque added to the wheel from the weight of the Grom is also about 1,000 foot-pounds. So I have doubled the torque, kind of. Given this combined torque at the wheel, there is one important question we have to ask ourselves.
Will it wheelie?
Nope. Which is good, because that would not only be unsafe, but probably also frowned upon by the LAPD. So anyway, I'm gonna go find a heavier motorcycle and a closed course. See you next time. It used to be that you had to impress people to get people to watch your show. Now you just have to impress the algorithm. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. All hail the algorithm.